How would you say the pandemic has affected management training and management styles?
I would say in every way. And it began, I will say this, I think there was a shift prior to the pandemic.
Okay.
The integration of millennials and Gen Xers and Gen Yers and things, we began to get a sense that things were not going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
That we were going to have to manage people differently. We were going to have to lead people differently. And so I think the pandemic just accelerated it, perhaps, Marsha. It just...
I think I agree with that statement.
It ignited what was already perhaps forming. And, the other piece of this too is deciding for yourself what kind of leader you want to be in your life, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's personal or professional. So I think it impacted how people show up as leaders. And now we have to look at the management and leadership development programs that existed before the pandemic. To what degree are they even relevant anymore?
Mm-hmm. Do you do anything in your class that addresses remote leadership?
We don't specifically address that, and yet it's this huge issue. Mm-hmm. And there are so many different philosophies and schools of thought. And, Jeff, it's interesting that you should ask that question because my husband happens to work for Walker Dunlop, which is a Denver-based financial services company. And, they're all over the country. And yet the president, the founder, the CEO, Willie Walker, he just has a bias, and he believes that it's better to be in the office, right? Like there's an energy and there's a dynamic that exists when people are together that you can replicate to a point via Zoom. But it's like why Terry and I decided that this needed to be an in-person program.
Yep.
Right? Because remotely,
yeah, I agree 100%.
You cannot, and keep in mind, Brene Brown, who is one of my favorites. In fact, we lean into her work a lot as a resource for leadership growth formula. And Brene Brown, I'm sure as a Texan, you probably are familiar with Brene.
I'm not.
I've heard the name, but I'm not.
So yes, she actually has the 4th most watched TED Talk of all time.
Okay.
And she's a Texan. She's a 5th generation Texan. She is a researcher, author. She's just blowing up the business world these days with her latest book is called Atlas of the Heart. She does 2 different podcasts.
Wow.
But that 2009 TED Talk really launched her career. She'd already been an author of several books because she's a researcher and professor at the University of Texas. And so she, in one of her books, Dare to Lead, she talks about we as human beings are hardwired for connection. We are truly hardwired for connection. And so, Jeff, to your point, it makes it difficult, I got sidetracked with my little sidebar promo for Brene Brown. But it does speak to the need for some people, right, to be in that collaborative environment. And so how we address that, because we don't necessarily specifically talk about how do you manage a remote worker, is if you are showing up, right, as the leader you want to be, and you trust and you are confident in your leadership capabilities, then you manage that scenario, right? You manage the person, perhaps not the process. You manage what that person is going through.